Greetings and salutations, everybody. It is I, Lore Seeker, and currently it is October 3rd, I believe. It's a Monday, and I just wanted to take some time and do a quick video about my predictions for the Brothers' War, my hopes and fears for the set, what I think will happen and what I dread might. So, let's first talk about what we know so far about the set. This is most likely it is going to be a reimagining of the Brothers' War storyline, and we're seeing that already with the cards that have been spoiled so far. So let's get my big upset out of the way, and some of you think it might be Kayla Bin Krug and her apparent change of race from white to black, and it's not, in fact. That I don't really care all too much about, because in the novel, at the very least, in the novel, we only get a very brief description of her, and she's described as having raven hair and black eyes, I believe. So her being changed from white in the comic to black in the card art, I don't really care about that. What I do care about, however, is the very blatantly different appearance of the machines in this set. And by that I mean the very sanitized, I don't know, like futuristic, sleek, very dialed down appearance of the robots so far. We got a handful of them in the card arts. Kayla's card has one, I think. All of the basic lands, the extended art lands, have them, and they look very much like what you would see in some disgustingly sanitized, futuristic nonsense sci-fi thing, mass-produced crap. It doesn't look like some kind of machine you would find in some 4,000-year-old conflict between two genius archmages. It looks like something that got made in a fucking Chinese Samsung factory. It just looks bad. It looks soulless. That's the word. The phrase soulless, the word soulless gets used a lot to describe changes to a franchise, but here I think more than most other examples in Magic the Gathering, it applies very strongly, because thinking back to some of the earliest art depicting the artifacts from the Brothers' War as featured in the Antiquities set, and the stuff we get in the previews so far for the Brothers' War, the contrast is night and day. One looks like what you would almost expect to find in this throwback ancient fantasy story, and the other one, again, looks like something you'd find in a Marvel movie, and it disgusts me. It truly does. But with that disappointment out of the way, let's first talk about what I genuinely do hope to find in this set and in the story that's going to most likely come out with the set. My biggest hope, and it's something that I really do genuinely wish from the bottom of my heart, is that the original Brothers' War story, the changes that Wizards makes will be small, and that the original story will remain largely unmolested. Now, originally I would have liked to say that there would be no changes whatsoever, and that we would just get a strict re-release of the original Brothers' War novel. In fact, I still hope that Wizards will take this opportunity to re-release the original novel. I would very much like to see that on shelves again, because I need a copy still physically. I just do. But with the Dominaria United storyline, we know for a fact that Teferi is going back in time, and with his presence there, changes are going to happen. Like it or not, something is going to change. I don't know. I couldn't possibly anticipate what it could be, but I can hope that Wizards will be careful and selective with whatever changes they're going to be making to the story, and that it will turn out well. And, that really is my big desire, is that the story remains largely enough unchanged. But I do have other hopes as well, and that is largely in the character interactions. We have here a very interesting, very rare opportunity to just sit back and experience characters that have not been explored in something like 25 years. Ashnod, Tawnos, everyone, Felden and his wife, the members of the Third Pact, the entire cult of Gix, the Brotherhood of Gix. Sorry, please don't crucify me. But most importantly, the interaction I am most looking forward to is Teferi and Urza. You see, Teferi and his relationship with Urza has been something that's I've kind of enjoyed for years now, mostly because Urza is this, ends justifies the means kind of guy who's always been willing to take the really harsh, cruel decisions to get the job done, and Teferi, meanwhile, has been this kind of, let's hope for the best and try for the best kind of guy who avoids the hard decisions whenever possible and still makes some of his own major mistakes while he does it, such as when he phased out an entire country and forgot to phase them back in. But that's not the point. The point is, I'm looking forward to seeing Teferi, who has, ever since he left the Academy, actually even since he was in the Academy, Teferi has always been wary of Urza and how Urza acts, and understandably so. Urza has always been kind of crazy, but here Urza is largely sane right after he sparks, and seeing how they interact, Teferi, who has some time, Teferi's been around a while now, Teferi has had a lot of time to mature as a character, and Urza is a freshly sparked Old Walker, and I'm very much looking forward to that interaction in particular. I'm also looking forward to some of the side stories. Like I said, Ashnon and Tawnos. I'm looking forward to seeing whether or not Wizards is going to dedicate a story, or even a side story, who cares, to them. It's a interesting romantic situation they had going on, where the two apprentices of the two most dangerous men on the planet at the time, found love with one another. Bit morbid love, all things considered, but love nonetheless. Let's move on. Let's cover some of my big apprehensions, my big fears, some of the things that I dread could occur in this story. The big one is that too much will be changed, obviously, but too much will be changed in terms of Urza and Mishra's relationship. You see, in the Brothers' War, keep in mind, this was way before the invasion, way before any of the Academy stuff. Urza and Mishra in the Brothers' War story were very gray characters. They were both caught up in a conflict that escalated around them, and they went with it. Now, it did boil down to one wanting the other's shiny rock, yes, but they were also both very morally gray characters, all things concerned. Mishra eventually became a bit darker and corrupted by the influence Gix had on him, to the point where he was either turned into or replaced by a Phyrexian. And I hope that this set doesn't change that. I hope that Urza and Mishra both are portrayed as the morally gray characters they were back in the day, and that the characters around them also don't change. I sincerely hope that the original spirit of the characters is held to, or adhered to. Sorry. Now, another big fear, and one that's already kind of come true, is again the soulless nature of the set. I dread that more of this nonsensical, sanitized machinery is going to appear, and it's not going to look like, it's not going to feel like this ancient war between two master artificers. It's going to look like some kind of mass-produced robot war, and I'm not going to like that if it's the case. I hope it's not, but I dread that it will be. Another fear I have for this set, and this is a minor one, but it's also kind of something I would be relieved if they did this, is if there were no story at all. If Wizards, for whatever reason, just said, screw it, we're not releasing the actual story. For Theros Beyond Death, they did that. They have still not given us the Theros Beyond Death story. They've just given us some bullet points. And I'm afraid of that happening here. Or maybe not to the extent of Theros Beyond Death, but you have to understand the Brothers' War was a conflict that took place over decades. I don't know how the hell Wizards of the Coast is going to portray this decades-long conflict in 5 short chapters. I don't think they can do it, and I dread that it won't be enough. The length of the stories has, for a long time now, been a consternation of mine, and here I think is where it might hit the breaking point, in terms of not necessarily quality, because, short stories can still be good if they're written well, but in terms of what's available. Because, again, the Brothers' War was a conflict that took place over decades. It ravaged Dominaria, stripped entire chunks of the land free of its resources, destroyed entire nations and races, and, even small continents were completely destroyed, ravaged of all life and resources. I don't know how they're properly going to portray that in 5 short stories. I just don't understand. Unless Wizards' plan is to just show the very end of the Brothers' War conflict. But in that case, it wouldn't be the Brothers' War, it would just be the climax, and that wouldn't be satisfying to me at all. I would like to see the entirety of the story. If they're going to retell the story, retell all of it, not just the ending of it. Let's move on a bit. Let's move on to, something that I also want to talk about, and that is in terms of what's been spoiled so far. And so far, I'm liking it. The Urza meld card. Some people have opinions on this, but in my personal opinion, I think the melded Urza card with a Might Stone and Weak Stone merge with Urza to create the Urza Planeswalker. I sincerely believe it's an amazingly flavorful card, and I don't know who designed this, but kudos to them. High fives to the design team. I think that this is one of the most flavorful cards WotC has done in a very long time, and I'm very happy to see it. I love the feeling of the Urza Planeswalker, where he feels so much more powerful and dangerous than any other Planeswalker we've gotten. And for Urza, it should feel like that. Urza should feel like this completely different category of Planeswalkers, and I think they did a great job. Some of the other cards in the set, like I said, I've seen the Kayla card. I think it's fine. I'm curious as to why she cares about artifacts at all, since the Kayla from the novel didn't really like Artifice all that much. She kind of had a disdain for it after enough time. I'm curious to see if Harbin will get a card. I'm curious to see what Gix's card will be like, and of course, I want to know what how the Silex Blast is going to be depicted. But, that's really it for now. Like I said, I just want to get my fears and hopes out of the way, but I'm hopeful for the set. I hope that it's going to be good, but you can bet that I'm going to scrutinize the hell out of it, because at the end of the day, the Brothers' War is one of my favorite stories in Magic's history. I love it. Everything about it has been very enjoyable to me, and I know that there's a lot of other fans for it out there. And when Wizards releases these short stories, because I think they're starting in the next few days, I'm going to be I'm going to scrutinize the hell out of them. It's just the truth, guys. Any changes they make, I'm going to note it, and I'm going to, at the end of this, you bet there's going to be a review. That's all for now. Like I said, thanks very much for watching, and I will poke you guys another day.